what does he say?
Proper planning prevents piss
Poor
performance.
performance.
Yeah. Proper planning prevents piss performance. Yeah.
I remember the piss poor part.
Yeah. I remember the piss. Oh, yeah. So, wow, this is episode 8.
Episode 8.
Yeah. So we are talking about what is the most important lesson that your parents have taught you, and the one that we want to pass down to the little one.
To our little girl.
So would you like me to start, or do you want to start first?
I'll start first.
Okay.
So to preface, my family, we're an immigrant family, so I moved here when I was 10.
Yeah.
And I would say from my mom, the most important lesson that we learned as immigrants too was to embrace our differences.
Okay. So how does that manifest in your daily life?
So I would say when we first moved here, moving to a new school at 10 years old, she made sure that I continued doing what I enjoyed doing.
Okay.
So that was playing my guitar and singing.
Aw,
So
adorable.
at my new school, for multiple award shows, I played my guitar and sang.
Now, hold on. Were you at a school that would understand that?
They were super supportive.
They were?
Yes. I feel like I've met people even later on in life that were like, no, I remember you because you played the guitar and sang.
Aww.
That, when you were at the school. That's the first memory I have of you.
Yeah.
And so that was really important.
Because didn't you go to a predominantly black school when you first moved here?
I did, yeah. And people, of course, kids, they make fun of you.
That's kind of what I'm leaning into. I'm sitting here thinking you got this sweet little Indian girl
with her thick accent.
Yeah, playing the guitar, and you're gonna have a hard time convincing me that you didn't get a couple of shots
of course, people were, no one was mean.
Yeah.
People did make fun of me, but no one was mean.
Because I know that even if you were my future wife, I'd get some shots in. I'd get something in. Because that's just because we're kids, you know? And if you're adorable playing your little guitar.
People would be like, lang, 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 that's what they do. Yeah. But most people were very supportive, and it actually made me more friends. People wanted to talk to me. Just they were like, who's this person that just is on stage when none of us are doing this?
Yeah.
So she made sure that was instilled in us, and I think that carried over because now I feel like I'm a very confident person.
Oh, absolutely.
In who I am, and it's still that way. That never went away.
Yeah, that's cool. I actually like that a lot. I would have said that if my parents told me to get up there and play the guitar or play some instrument, and I don't know, I just know all the people I know would have clowned. They just everybody would have just clowned me for something,
Yeah. I mean, I was doing it in India. We did a lot of talent shows.
So you were actually good at it.
Yeah.
Oh.
So we did it a lot when we lived in India, and so we just wanted to try to keep a sense of normalcy moving to a new country with just the four of us.
Yeah.
And so it worked,
Oh,
yeah.
That's nice. So trying to instill the idea that who you are is exactly who you should be.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah, don't try to cut corners. Don't try to fit in.
Yeah.
Just be who you are, and that's what's going to work.
Okay.
And it did. Yeah. I mean, I loved it there. I loved that school. I had such good friends. So I really liked it. Yeah.
Okay. Most important lesson that so first
from your mom.
Yeah, from my mom. The most important lesson I've learned from my mom is probably that strength isn't always the loudest.
Ooh.
Strength isn't always the loudest, and sometimes you can control outcomes indirectly.
Okay.
And so that's what I've learned. And so if I had to have single examples, I think about the times when prayer was the most effective tool in her arsenal. And so then you would have people who didn't understand that prayer was effective, and they would say you're not doing enough. Mm-hmm. But all things considered, she was doing more than enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so she taught me that the spiritual is not loud.
No,
it's not loud at all. But just like the weight of an ocean, if you were, let's say, if you were a few hundred feet underneath it, you would feel the weight, but it would be quiet, right?
It would be quiet.
It would be very quiet, but you would be compressed by the weight. And that's what I feel like she taught me, is that there's power in the depth of someone, And so I don't think I've learned. I don't think I've seen that from anyone else.
I don't think so.
I think everyone else tries to show their strength through noise or activity.
I think when you meet your mom too, you can tell she has a presence.
Yeah.
She's someone to be revered.
Yeah.
And she doesn't say much.
She doesn't. No. She doesn't say a lot. But yeah, like you said, she doesn't say a lot. It's just her presence does all the work.
Yeah.
And when she prays, I know that what we used to say was like, if like we were nervous about something or scared or whatever, like if mom prayed, it was gonna work.
Yeah.
Like it'd be like, did mom pray? Okay, then it's probably okay.
But it's true.
Yeah.
I think till this day, if we need prayer, we call your mom. You're like, Mom, we need help.
I need a mom prayer right now, because that's the one. Now, what does that mean about my dad's prayer? What does that mean about my dad's prayer? Dad is who you call if you need something like in the world right now, like you need it in the world, right? Mom is who you call if you need the spirits to move things. You know what I mean? Like, that's a little different. But that's my mom's most important lesson.
Then how do you use that from her now?
Oh yeah, so I trust my spirit more than I probably admit. Like, so if someone says, if I meet someone, I might not say many words, but I'm listening to what my spirit says. Yeah. And if my spirit has somewhat of a, I don't know, there's so much distance. It might as well be like I don't even know the person.
Yeah.
I just don't give them any. I just create so much space. So,
and that's protective.
Yeah. I kind of protect my circle, but it's all because of my spirit, and my spirit's talking, and I've learned to trust it through her. Would you like to share the biggest lesson that your dad may have taught you?
Yes. So with my dad, I think I would say he's taught us perseverance.
Okay.
100%. So he went from being pretty high up in a company when he worked in India.
Yeah.
And then coming here and working in a fish department, like the seafood department in a grocery store. Yeah. So that was a huge difference for him, but he kept his nose to the grindstone. And then now he's the head of safety for a big company. Well,
what that tells me is that it really is about the person more than it's about the environment.
Yeah, definitely.
Like what Jay-Z said, put me anywhere on God's green earth and I'll triple my worth. Yeah. And so, that's what that reminds me of.
So he went from, I remember him coming home from work, smelling like fish.
Yeah.
Because that's what he was around every day. He had like special work fish shoes.
Yeah.
And so I remember him going from that, to now traveling all over the country, meeting with different people. And he did that by himself, you know. So I think he has instilled that perseverance in us to where if I want to do something in life now, I know I can do it. Yeah. If I want to do it, I'm going to do it. Yeah. And it's not like can I?
Yeah.
Or
someone didn't let you, or someone told
let
you.
Me. Yeah. Come on. Yeah. No. Yeah. So I think that was really important for us, perseverance. And just like watching him too, my dad, he jokes a lot, like, right.
He's really good with people.
He is really good with people.
He's fantastic with people. I feel like if he goes into a room, he can adapt to like any any race or any kind of like subculture. He
is really good with people. Yeah. And so he jokes a lot, and he's like, he makes people feel at ease, but he's still doing what he needs to do to keep going and to take care of our family. Yeah. And so meeting him, you wouldn't think, looking at him, like that was the first thing that popped into your head, but he's doing it silently.
Unassuming character.
Character. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Cool. What about your dad?
My dad's special. My dad has, he's like a very complex person. So so they grew up in, kind of like lower socioeconomic situation. And so first there was a lot of unlearning behaviors, right? And but with coming out of those situations, you learn a lot of really important survival skills.
Yeah.
And so the reason why he's complex is because the same skills that taught him how to navigate, let's say, like navigate in a room full of vultures, the same skill that taught you how to do that is the same kind of like behavior that has its place in time. You know what I mean? So it's like, how do you keep the same thing that kept you alive?
Yeah.
How do you keep the same thing that kept you alive kind of dialed in appropriately where you're no longer in a survival kind of situation?
Yeah.
Right. And so
how do you find that balance?
Yeah. Like, how do you find the balance?
Where do you go?
Yeah. And so he spent a lot of energy, before I was born, finding that balance. And so when I see him, what do I see? I see someone who can read you and plan a few steps ahead of what you might do, whether it's to your benefit or to your potential harm. He sees both sides of the person, whether that side is present at the time or not. And then he plans for both sides, like mentally.
That's kind of scary though.
Well, that's cool because like I'm used to it now. So like I like in a very, very lighthearted like translation of that mindset, I could joke with you and I'll say, if you say something along the lines of, I'm going to the store, I'll say, okay. And then I'll think about, well, if she's not going to the store, where could she go? And then what hints might I have overlooked at this point in our relationship to where the store might be the right thing to say.
Right. Oh my gosh.
But it might be the right thing to say, but it might not be the truthful thing to say, and then I'll sit here and I'll have all these thoughts, and ultimately I'll just tell you, I'll go with you.
Yeah.
Or I'll tell you, don't, I'll say something, but like I have all these thoughts that go on in my head because of my dad's like,
from me saying
style.
I'm just going to the store.
Yeah. Because I think about, you think about, best case scenario, worst case scenario. Okay. So best case scenario is, me joking around saying, okay, who are you going to go see? Right. Jokingly. Worst case scenario is I let my wife leave someone that I couldn't, predict would interact with you in a negative way. You're pregnant. Potentially my baby would be in harm, and potentially my wife would be threatened. All of these things because you didn't think 2 steps ahead.
I see.
And so
it's protective.
It's a very protective mindset, but it requires that you think about both best and worst case scenarios at every point.
Yeah.
And so
that's exhausting though.
It's normal now. It's like you don't think about it.
It's just like operating system is just always going.
Yeah. And so what I used to get mad because I was like, Dad, you don't trust anyone and not everyone's out to get you. I used to say that a lot. Not everyone's out to get you. So yeah, I used to be upset about it. But
as you get older.
Yeah, you get older and then you realize, oh wow, you've really navigated some tricky situations. And it didn't break you psychologically. You just did it, you know? And so that's what makes me say, okay, Dad is a complex person, not without reason. Not without reason.
Yeah. It's nice though, because it's so useful because if you're constantly making these decisions, even subconsciously, I said consciously.
Yeah. Well, no, if you start off consciously.
Then it's happening in the background.
Yeah.
You're laying everything out. So each option, like if the worst case scenario, the best case scenario, the middle of the road scenario, you've already thought about it.
Yeah. And that's why I don't, like whenever, let's say someone upsets you for some reason or whatever, like it's not shocking because I kind of feel like I thought about that. I didn't give it 100% of my energy. I didn't ruminate on it and spin my wheels and think about it all day. I thought about that's a possibility. And that possibility popped up and I'm like, oh, that was one of the cards in the deck.
Yeah.
And I don't have to like,
you have done that a few times.
You don't have to think so much about it.
And I think like, I'm just like hoping for the best case scenario all the time.
Yeah. But then like, it could happen. It's just one of the cards in the deck. It's just one of them.
I do feel like though, if I think about the scenario that it's not great, then it'll happen. So I don't like want to think about it.
Yeah. Well, I don't think about it like that. I think there's 52 cards in a deck and sometimes you get a different card.
I know.
That's all.
I need to change how I do that.
Well, but you're also like more of I might be a bubbly person, but you're more positive. Yeah, you're more of a positive person. And so I actually learned, well, here's a good point. What did we learn from each other that we want to pass on to the little baby?
I would say from you, I've definitely learned emotional regulation and identifying your emotions and trying to the best of your ability to communicate them effectively. Yeah. I think that gets rid of so much unnecessary drama. And it's great in a relationship. It's great when you're interacting with people. It's great when you're reading people. Because then you're well regulated regardless of what the other person is dealing with. So I would say that has been huge.
Oh, I'll say it. It came from my dad, honestly. He used to put us through kind of like, I would always call them like psychological pressure cookers. He would just make us sit down and understand our emotions and our thoughts and our behaviors. Like, why did you do this thing? And then you're boohooing, I don't know. And then eventually you come up with an answer. Yeah. Now, when you're younger, you might come up with any answer just to get out of that like conversation because it's, a lecture forever. Right. But as you get older, you start to say, okay, well, I probably do know why I did that. Yeah. And then eventually as you get older, you start to say, okay, I know why I did that.
I mean, it has been a game changer. Cause I think in immigrant households, you don't really talk about your feelings and emotions. Yeah. So that wasn't like a forte of mine. Yeah. And so when I met you, I'm like, how do you know what you're feeling? I'm just mad and I don't know why I'm mad.
I do remember that. I was like, if you said that you needed time to like sort through your thoughts, I was like, how much time do you need if you just did it? Like you just did it. Yeah. It's as fresh as it possibly could be right now. Yeah. Why do you need to let it simmer? It was because that wasn't like a normal thing in everyone's household. And I had to talk, I talked about this with multiple couples. I was like, if your family didn't process emotions as a tool to like get to resolution, then you can't expect your partner to do that quickly. That's a skill that you have to develop over stressful. You have to have enough stress to then have the opportunity to then dissect your emotion. And so it's not an everyday thing.
No. And then to even want to, right? Like, do I feel like doing that right now? Because when you're overwhelmed, you're just like, oh, God, I don't want to freaking deal with this right now.
I've never met anyone who is stressed out and wants to try harder. Never in my life. I've never. Yeah. And that's why you just got to give a couple passes.
I mean, it took a while, but I think, slowly it changed over time. Yeah. And now I feel like pretty good. But still, there are still some times where I'm just like.
You're great. You've been doing, if I'm not like, like I'm your coach or something like that. But like, I'm just saying like you've noticeably will make time to sort through it so we can get to resolution on issues faster.
It feels better, like getting to a resolution faster.
Because we get to be married like the way we want to be married. We don't who wants to be married and then upset with each other?
It's the worst.
Who chooses to marry someone to then be mad at them all the time? I don't get those kind of relationships. I know.
Why don't you take some time? Out.
Yeah, like we have way more fun when we're hanging out than we do having our like not so much misunderstanding each other and miscommunicating. It's way more fun to hang out with each other. Yeah. So I'm passionate about like getting back to where we have fun with each other, because we met each other because we, like thought there was something interesting,
and we married each other because we're like, hey, we can do this long term.
We actually like to be in the same room for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
Like we enjoy that. And so let's go back to when it was fun. And how do you do that? Well, get all of the gunk out of our system, all the emotional gunk cleared out. Yeah.
And it feels free.
Yeah.
Like,
you feel
it
better.
feels so much better.
Yeah. And then some people think that it's easy. That's the one thing I noticed. A lot of people think it just comes naturally. Like, oh, y'all are so happy-go-lucky. No, it takes work. It's like going to the gym. Like, you don't like come out looking good. You work at it.
Yeah.
And then you look good.
Totally. The other thing that we do is we don't like really talk about our problems with other people.
Well, no. So here's the deal. Like, we don't advertise the worst part about each other to others. Yeah. Like, if we're frustrated with each other, why would I need to pull somebody out of their circle and bring them into a temporary moment in our relationship?
I know.
And expand that in their world to the entire relationship? Because for them, that moment that we're experiencing is the entirety of their experience with us that year.
Right.
And why would I want to take a moment and dilate time to, and that they'll say whatever, whenever they hang up the phone, that's the last thing they remember about my wife.
Yeah.
And then they sit there with that thought about my wife, and then they live with it. Yeah. And then it roots itself.
Yeah. And then you're over it, and then done. They're not. Yeah.
They're going to be like, man, I remember that last time she did that. I'll be like, what are you talking about? Yeah, I don't remember that. That was that was a brief moment in time. Oh, I've been sitting with that for 3 months.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
I can't stop thinking about it. You're like, oh, I've moved on.
Yeah. No, we have great times all the time. That was just a blip in our moment. Yeah.
So it's not worth it.
It's not worth it. We don't do that. No.
So what did you learn from me?
What did I learn from my wife? Okay, so I think I was so impatient when we first met, because there were so many things that I wanted to accomplish, and I wanted them done yesterday, which is obviously, how we get what we have and how we accomplish the things that we accomplish. There has to be some urgency. Yeah. But you taught me to slow down a little bit. And you taught me that that there's a journey that I might miss. I might miss some of the best parts if I keep thinking about tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I thought about tomorrow more than I thought about today for a long time when we met, because that's how I got here. It's like I didn't care about today because I was working on tomorrow. And I still kind of default to that every once in a while. I'm like, things are not where I want them.
Yeah.
And then there's another reason that you are more important than tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it'll be something as small as you, like, I don't know, making dinner or watching TV or just the way you like decided to like put on a shirt and it's wrinkly.
Right.
And I'll just look at you and I'll be like, that shirt's way too big. What are you doing?
Right.
You're so cute.
Yeah.
I love you. And then I don't really care about tomorrow as much.
I know.
And I just want to hang out.
Because then, like we talked about that today, how all these experiences now that we've had before our baby gets here is our history.
Yeah.
Right? These are stories that we're going to tell her.
Yeah.
And so we have to remember, like, even the little boring stuff, because that's how we got here.
Yeah. Yeah. We were sitting in Qdoba and we were just talking about like different things that we did in like Florida. And I was like, wow, that's now history. That's a part of our story.
Yeah. It was a drive. You said
drive,
it was one drive that we did that you were like, oh, that drive was really impactful. Driving from one place to the other, listening to music.
Yeah.
And you would have missed that.
Now it's printed in my mind like a movie. You were like, I was like, yeah, it was sunny. You were like, it was cloudy. I'm like, what? No, it was sunny. The wind was blowing. Your hair was long. It was short. No. Were you wearing a dress?
I was wearing a dress.
Okay. All right. So you were in a dress. So I just remember it being a perfect day. But that moment was in that moment, and it was only in that moment, and I wasn't planning that moment.
Yeah.
I didn't have a schedule for that moment. It was just there.
It was just us spending time together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's something.
So for our daughter, she's going to take from our mothers. For my mom, she's going to take embracing her differences.
For my mom, she'll take the power of the depth of a person.
And then from my dad, it's going to be perseverance. You can do anything you set your mind to do.
And for my dad, it's going to be understand that outcomes are plentiful, somewhat predictable, and can be prepared for.
Yeah. What does he say?
Proper planning prevents piss
poor
performance. Yeah. Proper planning prevents piss poor. Yeah.
I remember the piss poor part.
Yeah. I remember the piss. But yeah. So episode 8.
Episode 8.
Good stuff.